Hey guys, it's Jordan here from SwitchWatch. How you all doing today? Now today's review is of Mario Tennis Aces on the Nintendo Switch. Oh yes. Thanks to Nintendo UK for providing this review copy so I can tell you guys if it's worth your hard-earned cash or not. Now the question of today is, what is your favorite Mario sports game? There are so many out there, but let us know which one is your favorite in the comments below. Let's get on with it. The Mario Tennis games have had a tumultuous history, starting off with a whimper on the Virtual Boy before warming the hearts of gamers everywhere with an enjoyable RPG on the Game Boy Color and a fantastic multiplayer party game on the Nintendo 64. The series ran smoothly right until the lackluster 3DS release and the borderline unacceptable Wii U game. With the Nintendo Switch's success and continued desire to please everyone, Mario Tennis Aces had to be the entry to pull the series back from 40 love down to win the game. But does it? Unlike the past few tennis games, Aces actually has the story mode, something which fans of the series have been crying out for since it was left behind in the Game Boy Advance game. This time Mario and friends are at Marina Stadium, enjoying a nice game of tennis when the ne'er-do-wells Wario and Waluigi turn up to cause chaos, presenting a supernatural ancient tennis racket from a long-lost civilization. Luigi, being Luigi, grabs it and is possessed, whisked away, Mario and Toad set off in pursuit. That's the setup, and it rarely gets any more thrilling than that. But it is an enjoyable plodding story as you make your way from A to B, having a few tennis games in between. To be honest, while I would have loved a fully fledged RPG epic to go with it, it's pretty much what I expected it to be. It's an enjoyable way to learn the mechanics of the game with a bit of lightheartedness. It's a fairly simple story, but it's a welcome one for sure. I enjoy that it doesn't quite take itself too seriously. It's pretty on the nose about how silly it is that there are tennis courts conveniently placed everywhere, even on ships, and that a few rounds of tennis can solve just about every problem. There's no other way they could have gone about it, really. The gameplay? Well, it's a tennis game. I'm not going to explain the rules of tennis, of course, but instead talk about your abilities and such. Aside from the normal shot types like flat, lob and slices, there's plenty else to think about. With each button dedicated to a type of shot, the longer you hold down the shot, the more it charges up and the more powerful it is. You can manipulate the shot direction with the left analog stick after you started readying for the shot. This is the pretty basic flow of the game, but there are specialties and gimmicks that really add to the competitiveness. The special shot types have been increased for this game, with the leading stars being the zone shot and the trick shot. The zone shot is where, upon returning a weak opponent's shot, a star will appear on the floor. Pressing the R shoulder button will initiate a shot in which you can use the motion controls to aim your powerful shot as far from your opponent as possible. Or you can be a little bit devious and smash it right into them or their racket. Why their rackets? Well, because players' rackets can be destroyed by a powerful enough shot. Destroy it enough times and you can actually KO your opponent, forfeiting them by taking out all of their rackets. It's a cool mechanic and potentially overpowered, but there are things that you can do to combat it. First of all, the opposing force to zone shot is zone speed. Pressing the same shoulder button while not in a star marker will slow down time, allowing you to catch up with the speeding ball and give you a chance to produce a seemingly frame perfect block which stops you from taking damage as well as saving you the points by returning the unreturnable. I feel that blocks are by far the most finicky of the mechanics in this game. As I said, it's almost frame perfect allowance, otherwise your racket is taking a hit. At full speed, it's nigh on impossible to pull off, and at slower speeds, it feels uncomfortably close to hitting you before you pull the trigger to block. Your natural instinct is to hit it as it's in front of you, but no, you need to wait until it's almost down your throat. It takes a lot of getting used to, and I only started to get the true hang of it after a few rounds of straight playing. Even then, it's still a bit hit and miss. All of these additions and tactical balancing means that this is a much better game in my opinion than what came before. It's a far more competitive game of tennis Mario has played than ever. It's not quite up there with the competitive brilliance of Splatoon 2 or ARMS, at least from what I've heard of the latter, but it's getting there, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that this yet may have a similar longevity with a set fanbase. You'll learn all of these mechanics and trick shots by playing through the adventure mode, in which all of the skills at your disposal are vital for progressing. As you pursue Wario and Waluigi to retrieve the 5 sacred stones for the ancient racket, you'll have your standard 1v1 tennis matches, but there are plenty of minigames and boss battles too. They've really squeezed a lot out of the very simple tennis concept. There are the hit the target games, the long rally games, which are kind of bland and very much side tasks, but it's the other non-match stages that really shine for me. Firstly, the boss battles are very nicely done. Here you have to while away the boss's stamina before unleashing a power shot to take a life away, all the while dodging their attacks and hitting back whatever they use as a ball substitute. They are the highlight of the adventure mode for me. The adventure mode will last you about 4 hours, so it's not long and can be completed in one session. That may be disappointing, but it doesn't outstay its welcome and you're almost left wanting more. What I will say is that I enjoyed it, even in its limited capacity. There is a leveling up and experience points system, which seems more like window dressing plus new rackets, but again they don't feel like they actually add much since everything is balanced with the progression of the story. At the end of the game, you feel exactly the same as you did at the beginning. The world map, while a nice addition, is just a bit of fluff too. You walk from point A to B, and there's no exploration or interaction, which is maybe the biggest shame of all. I really would have liked to have been able to walk around and discover things, talk with people, maybe solve puzzles, but sadly, it wasn't to be in this iteration. What I do have to stress is that the adventure mode is not for kids in the slightest. Stages and challenges can get really tough at times. After about the halfway point, your foes will pull no punches, and I had to try many times on a good few stages. Enemies such as the Blooper on the stormy ship and Boom Boom on the lava bridge really put me to the test. The boss battles were often really tough too, although once you find the gimmick for them, they're generally not so bad. Still, I think plenty of you gamers may be shocked at how difficult this game can be at times. Dare I say, it's the Dark Souls of tennis? There are motion controls just like you would hope for from something like Wii Sports Tennis, and this is cordoned off to its own separate mode, but in all honesty, they turned the game into a dribbling pile of mess, at least in my short time with it. It's certainly not instantly pick up and play simple like Wii Sports. They've got the assists all wrong in my opinion. You're assisted in your movement, even though you can fight against it with the analog stick, but there are almost no assists in the hitting and aiming department. Q, slice, weak shots, hobbling out of bounds constantly. I'm sure if I had time with it and practiced, I could get used to it, but it's hardly the party game that grandma can pick up and join in with. The online is robust enough and performs mostly well connection wise. If I'm saying it's stable, then that's high praise considering my location in China and Nintendo's online network not always rubbing so well with it. You can play with your Switch friends very easily by creating lobbies for them to join and set the rules how you want. It works very well. I played with Lachlan, who writes for the website, and he kicked my backside every single game that we played, which showed me just how bad I am at competitive games these days. And even though I did lose many times, I still had lots of fun with it. The more competitive of types can have random games with people online or take part in tournaments which run monthly. This may very well be the biggest draw for many of you, especially those who are into games such as ARMS and Splatoon. The 1v1 nature of it is very tense, as you try to win as many tournaments as possible and increase your overall point score. I can see these as being very tense competitions between people over social media, and I think it could be very addictive in the long run if they can keep them going and mix them up a little. For the record, you can play these kinds of competition with the special shots on or without them if you prefer the purer game. Both are fair enough. The simple one is probably more equal, while the specials are more tactical, so it depends which one you're into more. Looking at Mario Tennis Aces, it's clear that this game is exactly what the Wii U game was going to be. At some point they must have decided to cut their losses on the Wii U game and package it off to a sellable level without overspending on development costs for a hopelessly failed console, and then focusing on the distant but hopefully successful Nintendo Switch with their original vision. It's certainly a huge step up for the series and a return to form for Camelot, a developer with a highly enviable history of creating excellent games. Overall, as a gameplay package, it's surprisingly strong. Lots of depth for competitiveness, an adventure mode that puts up a good fight. It's not perfect of course, and there are plenty of things that could be better. The story mode, while welcome, is a bit on the plasticky fluffy side, but I don't think we could have expected much more than that. Not the full RPG we had back on the tiny Game Boy Color screen. It's a nice distraction for 4 hours or so, but it's the gameplay that will keep you hooked far after you've completed that. It's fairly limited in what else it has to offer though. It's tennis at heart, and if you want something more than that, well, you're looking in the wrong direction. Visually, the game is very strong. Mario & Co. have rarely looked better. The highly detailed stadiums and lush environmental courts add a lot of depth to the game where it once lacked. There's the much needed variety in the settings that was stripped away from us before. Character models are just superb. Some strong colours and fantastic animation which adds a lot of personality to the game. Textures may not be all that great in certain areas and on the world map screen, and shadows aren't exactly the smoothest, but you can look past that for the perfectly smooth performance. At least as far as I can tell, it looks to be a full glorious 60 frames per second. The little visual details are great, and there's a nice quirky art style that's sorely been missed previously. Just looking at one of the snowy mountain stages, for example, to see a Toad sitting on a British postbox as he umpires the ongoing game, the fact that snowmen in the background can be destroyed by a stray ball, it's just these nice little touches here and there that make the game pleasing to look at. In the audio department, you have a nice strong arcade sports title mix interwoven to remixes of some classic tunes, and I'm sure you'll enjoy the music enough. I can't say I particularly heard any really distinctive tracks or any that I would love to listen to outside of the game, but it's an arcade sports game, so you generally don't expect much else. The sound effects are very satisfying though. The crunch of hitting a ball never gets old, and hearing the racket break as though they've just taken a critical hit works really well. For value, Mario Tennis Aces is a full-priced, first-party Nintendo game. At £50 and $60 on the eShop, it's one of those that is often a stinger if you're a digital-only person. While I do think the eShop price is steep, you can find a physical game at a much more reasonable and acceptable price. The campaign may be short, but it's the online that may keep pulling you in and sucking those hours out of you. Let's face it, if you get hooked online, like people did with Splatoon 2 and Mario Kart 8, spending an almost embarrassing amount of time playing, then of course it's worth the price. If you're planning a more casual experience, some local multiplayer once in a while, then you'll have to think a little harder about a purchase so early. Overall, Mario Tennis Aces is very much a step in the right direction for the series and Camelot as a company. It's what Mario Tennis Ultra Smash should have been, and is very much a welcome title in the Nintendo Switch's ever-increasing roster. It's not quite the great revolution or out-of-the-blue classic many were hoping for, but it didn't need to be. It's a fun arcade sports game with plenty of appeal for casuals and competitive folk alike. It could always be better, of course. The story mode could have gone full throttle instead of going at a steady, safe pace, and some kind of ingenuity to rescue it from its limited scope of being a tennis game would have been nice. Hopefully this is a stepping stone for Mario sports games of the future. An 8 out of 10. Okay guys, thank you very much for watching this review of Mario Tennis Aces. Once again, many thanks to Nintendo UK for providing this review copy. If you're a regular Switch watcher, then hit that like button and leave a comment below answering the question of the day. What's your favourite Mario sports game? Personally, the Strikers game on GameCube were excellent. If you're new here, then hit that subscribe button and click that little bell to keep up to date with all our reviews, gameplays and features. I've been Jordan from SwitchWatch, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.